My dudes, welcome back. I'm in my hotel room in Tokyo. I'm taking a break. I'm finally getting out of town after working on Twilight Monk for 2.5 years nonstop, 12 hours a day. I needed to get outdoors, see the sun. And then I get to Tokyo, it's raining the whole time. But the videos, they don't stop, okay? I don't stop. I don't get off the clock. That's the life of a YouTuber right there. So a couple of weeks back, I started a series where I'm going through all of the game of Twilight Monk that came out on Switch and PC. And I'm playing through different sections of it and showing you how the stuff is made. And I'm watching streamers and they're like, no, this is a 2D game. And then other streamers go, no, it's a 3D game. And so I'm going to break it down. I'm going to explain how the city of Crescent Isle is built in 2D and 3D. I want to say it's director commentary, but it's also great if you're a game developer or you're an artist and you're like, well, how do I make stuff for video games? It's a lot of Easter egg stuff in here too. It's secrets, lots of secrets and things that you might not have known are going on in the game. I'm revealing it all here in these director commentary videos. So buckle up, let's dig into the city tour of Crescent Isle. Now, many people already know that this game is built in Unreal Engine 4, but what we might not realize is it's actually a 3D engine. It's 3D space. So when you were looking at this, you're looking at a lot of 2D assets, but they're placed in 3D space. So even though the art assets are 2D, the world space is 3D. In fact, if I were to open this up in Unreal Engine and zoom out, you would see a lot of interesting stuff, right? This is what we see when we're developing. We see a lot of duplicated characters, we see a lot of icons, we see a lot of 2D assets with transparency on them. And that just means it has alpha channel. And if we look at it from the side here, you can really see it. And so this is just like a barrel here and bushes, and every one of these pieces individually has to be placed. But every building, every bush, and in fact even some of the rocks on the ground are all painted separately and then imported into Unreal Engine and placed meticulously. Some buildings are cut up into like 5 or 10 pieces, and then every little part needs to be reassembled to get just a slight little bit of parallax on them. Once they're placed, we can move them in that 3D space pretty easily using these little widgets. You probably noticed a lot of these little icons over characters' heads. That means they're interactive, and it's a system we use to know that, oh, that character has a dialogue tree, for example. There's also these boxes that are completely invisible in-game, but those are collider boxes. And what that means is that the player can't walk through that sprite. They can't walk through those invisible collider boxes. The box itself, or the barrel itself, does not have a collider. You'll also notice characters like Old Man Clive here. There's 2 of them in town. Well, we have it set up so that Old Man Clive only appears in one area, in one place, in one part of the game, and he has one dialogue tree in one part of the game, and then he appears in another part of the game in a different area within Crescent Isle, and he has to have a different sprite for that and a different conversation tree. It's all very technical and complicated and a lot more work than most people might realize that it is, but it's a lot of fun when it all comes together. It's like a magic trick. Because when we see it in game, it's almost magical. The way that things are switched off and then switched on, and we get this real sense of like depth amongst these buildings. When you're walking behind these buildings, they're like casting shadows, very soft shadows. I play around a lot I spend many an evening sitting there adjusting lights, adjusting little fog effects and little animated waves in the water, and going through each little part. And sometimes I'll pull out an asset and I'll just add a little bit of detail to it or a little animation to it, or I'll add in a new plant or a new swinging lantern, for example. And this is the hub town, and there was a lot of story written about this in the novels and the comics and stuff, so it gets a little bit more attention than some other locations, but it's a hub town. Like, you're coming back here a lot. But more than that, it's like, this is a video game, so like this town has to be designed for the kind of game that this is. I wanted this to feel like a living, breathing, painted world, a living, breathing, hand-drawn world. And to my knowledge, there's nothing like it. We're not just taking the Metroidvania formula of a platformer, we're also allowing you to go back to areas that, we talked a lot about, having the like bombable walls, and you're making a mental note, hey, come back to that bombable wall, right? We also have that here. Like when you look at this, look, in the overworld, you drop down into a well, and it's right now you can't really do much here, but it's very obvious. There's a gate lever there that obviously, you're going to find a way to go through this from another direction. And then also, what are these walls are obviously going to be breakable using some ability that I just don't have yet. And so that's the same mentality of a Metroidvania that you might find in a platformer, but we're applying that to an overworld, sort of very much like a JRPG or any of these kind of games where you're going on globe-trotting adventures. And that's what this game is. And that's how it is really unique from other Metroidvanias. We're not just in one dungeon with multiple locked doors. We're in a whole world with unlockable caves and optional bosses and optional monsters. By the way, we're supposed to go down here to Rin's Owl. This is Rin's hideout, and I'm not gonna go in just yet because there's a couple of things I want to talk about here in Crescent Isle. First of all, optional buildings that can be fixed up. And if you recognize this guy, this is Bolo. Bolo was one of the Red Cobras. The Red Cobras were a part of, well, they were Nox's goon squad, basically. He ran the Red Cobras. They were basically rising to power. They were a little insurgent group within Crescent Isle. But after Nox was defeated, Bolo says, oh yeah, hey, we've been trying to turn the old Red Cobra's hideout into an arcade. And yeah, you go to their hideout in the novels. And so it's really kind of neat to see them like, this is what happened to them afterwards. But they need a little bit of money to get it fixed up. Also, Hamcha's barbecue was destroyed in the books as well. And so Hamcha is the local chef guy. And yeah, he runs a barbecue place. And the barbecue is one of the coolest features of the game. You can get experience buffs and you can get damage buffs and or just run faster, like being able to run faster. But you got to fix up Hamcha's barbecue before you can do that. Now, Hamcha himself didn't look like that in the novels. In fact, he's kind of a character that's borrowed from another game that I worked on called Cannonballers. Now, before you go and Google Cannonballers, you'll find it's a game that never came out. I was creating this IP for a small startup, and we were going to make it as a mobile game. For reasons I won't go into, it didn't work out, and I ended up getting the rights back to Cannonballers and everything that I had created for Cannonballers. And so I've infused that. I created 2 chapters for Twilight Monk. Chapters 4 and 5 are all about these sky pirates. And gosh, I don't want to spoil anything. We'll talk a lot more about the Cannonballers when we get there. I'll just say that they are basically pirates that drive inside of their cannonballs like as if they're mechs. Some characters have their own story arcs going on. Some NPCs that you run into in town, they'll just tell you things like, oh, well, hey, did you check behind that waterfall? This really goes back to the very first Zelda. You'll just find an NPC that'll say, hey, if you look behind that waterfall or you touch that particular gravestone, you might find some magical item that I read about once. Well, that's really interesting because then if you go off and you do that thing, you might find some more cool stuff that helps you to level up. So when you get frustrated fighting a boss, you come back to your hub town, you maybe get yourself some barbecue, maybe you go and get yourself some power-ups like a miracle potion, maybe you just save or you go and get some more info on a new location. And then you might even find there are side quests or other things that you could go off and do to level up before you go back to tackling that boss again. So this is the last huge bit of exposition is when you do proceed to Rin's Owl. And again, I wanted to be careful to not throw half an hour of conversation at the player, but at the same time, there's a lot to explain to let the player know what's going on. I'm going to skip some of this, by the way. It just establishes that Nox is searching for the 3 rings of the Triskelion so that he can unleash the World Eater. And you want to find those 3 rings of the Triskelion before Nox finds them. Master Yabata is one of my favorite characters, primarily because he's the only master at the monastery that is not a moonkin. Master Yabata is just so hardcore and powerful and determined that he forced his way into the monastery to become a master, and they're just pacifist enough to let him get away with doing it. But the thing is in many ways, he is the opposite of Master Clue. So Master Yabata is not a take it easy kind of guy. Master Yabata is the kind of master that believes that you get stronger by taking a beating and then bouncing back. You strengthen your bones with impact. You strengthen yourself by facing conflict, stronger and stronger and stronger conflict. And so in this game, he carries on that part of his persona by giving you a monster book, which I will show you shortly. He explains that he's doing, quote, research but really it's about strengthening Raz. It's about making him face off against loads and loads of monsters. So here we see he's given you the monster book, and we have a tab in our inventory here that we can check on. You'll see here where each one has a little bar. I have only fought 3 out of 5 of these unsettled flames. It shows you how difficult they are. It shows you how many you've defeated. It shows you how much experience points they give you. This also allows you to keep track of bosses that you fought, and you can kind of get an idea of how many there are. I'll tell you now, there's about 86 monsters in the whole game. It's awfully large, I would say. But you'll also find that once you've completed about 5 of them, you can come in here to Yabata's hunts, which is where we saw him fade into. And if you talk to him, he will tell you, once you've completed 5 hunts, you'll get yourself a talisman unlock slot. And what that means is you'll be able to equip one more talisman. Now, we don't have any talismans yet, but we did see a little preview of them when we were looking at Master Clue's shop wares. We didn't always have save shrines in towns and in overworlds, but about halfway through development, we decided it was pretty important to make sure that the player could, because unlike a lot of modern games, we wanted that sense of reprieve when you do find a save shrine. And so most of the world map zones have a save shrine, at least one somewhere, because we needed the player to be able to feel that sense of like, oh yeah, I can just go and grind on random encounters in the overworld. And also, whenever you come back to Crescent Isle, we didn't want the player to have to go back into Dojo Path and go all the way over to that save shrine. No. Just have a save shrine in town. There's a couple more things I wanted to tell you about here just in town before I just give you a little preview of the overworld. But if we go to the monastery, you'll see other characters from the novels, Master Do, who really just gives you a little bit of a health refill, which we don't need. We get that at the save shrines anyway, but it's nice that he's there. We'd like to give him a little bit more of stuff to do in like future chapters or future areas of the game. But really, when you talk to Nora here, you'll find Nora, this is what I was saying when I said Nora has the most lines in the entire game. She kind of gives you some information on the world. She gives you information on what's happening with characters that you've already rescued or places you've already been and what the outcome of those events were, how you've affected the world. If you think about it like, if you've ever played Metal Gear Solid, there's a system called the Codex system. And it just allows you to chat with characters in a way that you really don't get to during combat or anything. It just lets you kind of go back and learn more about the universe, learn more about the world and the characters in it. So you'll find out about like relationships between characters. You'll find out about some events, the outcome of some events that happened in the novels. And you also get a little bit more character building. You see that, there's a little bit of an uneasy alliance between them. And this isn't even really specifically told to the player that this exists in the game. But if you just keep talking to her, she has about, I think, 8 different entries per chapter. And when I say entries, I mean like different topics of conversation that she will just randomly discuss with you. So be sure to come back and talk to Nora. Another character that's very similar is Malcrius. Malcrius is a world traveler who will give you insights into, I may be of some help on your quest. I am Malcrius, the famed explorer. Pleasure to make your acquaintance. I once stumbled upon a curious cave system not too far from here, a place once home to bandits, I believe. I would guess it was filled with treasure and danger in equal measure. So he's just letting you know about things like the Hidden Cove, for example. And if you keep talking to him, he'll tell you even more. But if you go up here to Big Head's shop, you'll find Big Head himself sells a map to a place called the Hidden Cove. So all these things sort of intertwine, and there's little breadcrumbs that will lead you to these side quests and optional content. It's not necessary for you to progress the game, but it certainly makes the world feel more alive. And in fact, most of our NPCs, I tried to make sure that they talk about like, oh, well, I was in Arturo last week and this thing happened, or I just came from, the Jabba Duba Desert and I was doing this other thing over there, but then this happened. And so characters talk about the places they've been and where they're going and what they want from their lives. And that gives them this sense that they're alive. You will find new characters will show up in town. You will find different characters will move around, and I will not spoil any of that. But I will say, since I've gotten my mission, my quest, which by the way, this was also a tricky thing to add in. But if you check out your inventory, down in the bottom left, you'll see your quest update. So that constantly lets you know, hey, remember, if you're lost, you can always check your inventory screen and it says, hey, follow the road northeast to the frozen mountain in search of Nox. And that's just a little reminder of like, what were we doing before? Okay, well, yeah, we were following that path to the northeast. Let's do it. If we leave town, we're suddenly introduced to a tutorial that lets us know about traveling between towns. Now, you'll find these random encounters. In my original design document, they were called shadow beings, B-E-I-N-G. But throughout development, we ended up just calling them shadow beans because in all of our meetings, it just ended up becoming sort of an inside joke. But yeah, so we got these beans. Watch out for the beans, everywhere you go. They might have treasures in them, or they might have monsters in them. Very essential if you're trying to fill out your monster book, which you probably want to do because the more entries you fill out in your monster book, the more you grow in power. You can equip more talismans. That means getting more powerful mystic arts and essentially even increasing your experience points if you find, the different talismans are going to give you way cooler stuff as you progress. Our goal here was to establish visually you've got this pathway that lets the player know where to go next. All this stuff is... Oh man, he just came off from off screen. New introduction of new enemies. You'll notice these guys, they're called Sneasel Blasters because every time they shoot some snot out of their nose, they let out like a loud sneeze. Not particularly like hard enemies, but it teaches you, don't forget to duck. Oh boy, these guys are on me like glue. Get off. Oh, he's gonna totally kill me. Okay, so again, that is a nice reprieve to have a save shrine right there. Because if I get into a fight, I already know I can just go back, level up a little bit, get a little bit more powerful, refill my health at the save shrine, or maybe you pick up some bananas. A quick word about health power-ups in this game. At one point, we gave the player a gourd that allowed them to use mana or ember to restore their health at any time. But the problem was that just broke the game because it was the only item that had you have 4 gourds. But it was in the weapon wheel or your mystic arts wheel. And so but yet it behaved differently than every other item. So it just wasn't really working and it became the most overpowered weapon in the whole game. So we decided ultimately, let's just have enemies dropping, fruit or food on occasion, the randomly dropped food, which just gives you a little bit of health. So it's a little bit more like you experience it as you're in the world and it's randomly dropped on you rather than it being something that you could count on or expect or strategize to use particularly. And so that gives the player a little bit more of that randomness. Duke Scarfunkel, one of my favorite character names in the whole game. Duke is here for the sole purpose of reminding you that Yabata has some hunts for you. In case if you missed it and you didn't go and talk to Yabata, Duke Scarfunkel lets you know, hey, remember, all these fights that you're having in the world, they matter. Go back to Master Yabata as you've completed your hunts, and you'll be able to get yourself some nice upgrades to your abilities. There are also, I don't want to dig into spoilers too much, but there are also alternate paths like the temple, which gives you a little bit of a hint as to what you're working towards in the overall game. This is that hidden cove that we talked a little bit about, and I got the map for. So one of the cool things is if you've already got the map for a level before you walk in, look at that. You can see all the grayed out rooms, and that just lets you know, hey man, you can dig in. There's going to be a lot of rooms here for you to dig into, basically. We also introduced a couple of new monsters in every location. We tried to make them really tied to the lore of that world, and there's a reason why they're down there. Those particular slug guys, they feed on the bones of the dead. So that kind of implies you're going to be facing a little bit of undead guys down here. And that seems like a good spot to cap this video episode. There's so much more to cover coming up in the future. I hope you're enjoying the behind the scenes insights into a lot of the design decisions that were made in the game, and I want to show you a little bit more of like how dungeons are constructed in the next video, dealing with everything down to like the tile sets, to how the assets are actually parallaxing, and how particle effects are working together for the catacombs, which is the first real substantial dungeon technically in the game, and a little bit to do with boss fight design as well. So there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up. These director commentary videos are going to go on for a long time, hopefully, because there's so much to cover and there's so many secrets and hidden things within the game and within the world of Twilight Monk. If you're eager to get into it, you can check out the game right now. It's available on Steam for PC, and it's also available on Nintendo Switch. We just put out our first patch, so we're constantly making improvements to the game. Please do leave your reviews on the Steam website, and that will help let your voice be heard. We're making impactful changes to address player feedback. We want to make the best damn Metroidvania game you've ever played. So come on back next week, and we will dig into some more director commentary videos. Thank you so much for stopping by, and ciao, baby. Oh, yeah.